What's going on, everyone? Welcome to another Bros Talking Soccer podcast. My name is Dave Canitto. Today is Thursday, June 28th, and it is day 15 of the World Cup, last group stage matches. So we're going to recap all those matches with David Pearson from Over the Bar. David, how you doing today?
Not bad, thanks. How are you, Dave?
Doing well, doing well. Thank you. My brothers, for anyone who's curious, they're out doing things. Christian may join us as we're going along here, but I think it's just going to be David and I recapping things. David, do you want to tell us a little bit about Over the Bar?
Yeah, sure. So, at the moment we're fairly new, so we've been going roughly now about 14 months in February of last year. We've developed really quickly, so we're approaching the 5,000 mark on Twitter for followers. We've got four main contributors: myself, Paul, Mark, and David as well. We've also built like a small pool of contributors as well, so we can try and get a bit more regular content moving forward. Um, Say as well, we all like support very varied teams as well, like across the English footballing pyramid. So varying from like Premiership, I support like a lower league team in Rochdale. Got Man City fans, Man United. We've got a Wigan fan as well. So we are quite varied in who we support as well.
Nice. Yeah. So everybody should definitely go check them out. We've tweeted from the Bros Talking Soccer account a lot of their articles. It's great stuff. So you should go check them out. Before we get to today's matches, anyone who's watching live on YouTube, please feel free to interact with us as we go along here. Say hello in the comment section. Respond to us if you have any topics you want us to cover or whatnot. If you're listening to the podcast, thank you very much. But we also record live on YouTube around about 4:15 Eastern time every day of their World Cup matches. So after the last matches and about 15, 20 minutes after those. So let's get to the matches today. Early matches were Group H, so we had Poland and Japan and Senegal and Colombia playing simultaneously. Let's talk a little bit about Japan versus Poland first. So that finished 1-0 to Poland. David, I know you said you weren't watching this too much, but did you have any thoughts on this match from a high level?
It seemed like it was very open, like end-to-end game. I think Poland were going into it knowing they weren't going to be able to progress. So I think they just went out, had a bit of fun, tried to have a bit of a go at Japan, really. Um, Japan have been really impressive in the tournament, like the high energy levels. I've been very surprised. I tipped them to finish bottom of that group and for them to like get through to the last 16. And even though they might have lost today, I think the tournament so far has been a massive success for them.
I'd agree with that. I definitely did not expect this from them as well. I thought it was really surprising the amount of lineup rotation that they had, given that they still needed a result by all stretches of the imagination. Yes, they lost this match, but if they drew, they were absolutely safe. If they won, obviously they were safe, but they could lose and go through. But I was really surprised to see Inouye, the really talented winger, out. Kagawa was out. No Honda. Again, just a lot of lineup rotation. I thought that was a big risk from the Japanese manager. Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, when you're leaving players out like Kagawa and Honda, you kind of fear the worst, really. I know they've got like Okazaki as well, but when you're leaving out Honda and Kagawa, you kind of giving the like impression to Poland there for the taking. But even though they did lose, it's paid dividends really in the end of in the last 16.
Yeah, absolutely. So you can't question them too much. And as we'll talk about this match, they did some other just interesting things. But again, at the end of the day, they're through to the next round. I thought Poland was a little bit sloppy in this match just from a possession standpoint. I just felt like they lacked ideas from open play going forward. It seemed like, they were committing numbers forward and they tried to play direct, but it was oftentimes just playing to Lewandowski, who was 1-on-2 or 1-on-3, or not really being able to create chances from open play, which we saw throughout this tournament. So for me, Poland was a disappointment. Yes, they got the win here, but again, I expected more from their play. Now, in the 32nd minute, that was a first kind of big moment from this match. There was a fantastic cutback cross by, I can't remember who hit the cross, but Grozicki from Poland got his head on it, hit a nice header to the back post, going into the net. And Kawashima, the Japanese goalkeeper, had a fantastic save. He moved across his line, dove, and reached back, hit it off the line. David, did you happen to see this particular play?
I haven't known, but I've been quite impressed with the Japanese keeper in the previous two games. He has pulled off quite a string of good saves for Japan that's kept him in quite a few of the games. So, yeah, he's been really impressive so far.
Yeah, and for me, this is the save of the match, save of the tournament, excuse me, for me. I mean, just for him to get all the way across his line, to dive full extension, palm it off the line, this is probably the best save of the tournament for me. Can you think of any other great saves from this tournament? I know I'm putting you on the spot, so if not, no big deal.
Yeah, I can't think of many, to be fair. I think the save, even though I ended up with a goal, the Tunisian keeper in the first game against England, when he saved John Stones' head off the corner, if Harry Kane would have tucked away the rebound, I think many people have been talking about that save, but I think that seems to kind of get forgot about with Harry Kane putting the goal away in the end.
That's a fantastic one to call out too. Nothing else really to report from the first half of this particular match. Poland gets their goal early in the second, well, not early, but 59th minute in the second half. Set piece, which again was set pieces and direct play from Poland that was generating most of their chances. So on this free kick, Kurzawa floats a fantastic ball in, and Bednarek, the center back, just composed, great finish, inside of the foot, near post, fantastic goal from him. Any thoughts on this particular goal?
I'll be honest, I didn't get around seeing that, like all the highlights. I caught like a glimpse of that one. It was mainly the Senegal Colombia game I was keeping a track of for today.
All right, no worries, no worries. And so I'm just going to recap real quick the rest of this match. 74th minute, Poland had a great counter. Somebody played it into perfect space out wide for Grozicki. He hit a great through ball into Lewandowski on the floor. It was coming with a little bit of pace. He had a little bit of pressure coming off of his left side, but Lewandowski blasted over the bar. You would expect him to do better in that situation. Last thing I wanted to point out from this match, at the end of the match, I know Japan had the result that they needed in order to qualify. But as we'll discuss in the Senegal versus Colombia game, if Senegal gets a goal, Japan's out of the tournament. And so they just showed a ton of confidence or complacency and a lack of urgency when one goal from Senegal would have had them out of the tournament. And for the last 5 to 10 minutes of this match, they were just passing the ball around in the back. It looked kind of like a mockery of the match. And so you don't love to see that. But again, they got through. And so it's tough to really fault them. But again, it was somewhat interesting for me to see. Anything else from this match before we move on to the next one?
Yeah, I think Poland today kind of demonstrated they are capable of having a result in them. It's just a pity they saved it until the final group game to at least pull a result out. I think they'll be going very disappointed from this tournament, to be fair.
Absolutely. Now let's talk about the other match. Had a little bit more drama. Senegal versus Colombia. It finished 1-0 to Colombia. David, did you have thoughts on this particular match?
Yeah, I really like after this first game, I was tipping Senegal to qualify before the tournament started. I'm quite disappointed they've ended up going out. I thought they've played some great football throughout the group stage as well, especially like Niang and Mane in particular, and especially bringing Keita into the front line today. I thought there might have been enough to at least get the result they need against Colombia, but I think in the end that lack of cutting edge in front of goals really cost them today.
I'd agree with that. Now, Senegal came out in a 4-4-2, which is what they've been playing, but it was different than the way that they've played in previous matches. And it was a little bit more defensive, which is understandable considering they only needed a draw to get out of this match and get out of the group. And so Mane moved from left midfield up top, and they brought in Balde, who I believe is a little bit more defensive, at least a little bit more than Mane. And again, I thought that they were more organized and more committed defensively than they had been in the previous matches. And so I thought they had the better of play throughout the majority of the first half. Now, the first talking point comes in the 17th minute. Senegal, I believe, has either they generated off a counter or good possession play, but Niang slips in Mane. He's in through on goal. Davinson Sanchez makes that tackle kind of from the side, from behind, gets his heel on the ball. What'd you make of this play? Was it a penalty? What'd you make of that whole play?
I thought it was a perfectly well-timed tackle, to be fair. I think the ref got that spot on in the end. So I can kind of see why Senegal might be a bit aggrieved, but I think in the end the right call were made on that one.
I would agree with that. So for those who don't know, the referee called a penalty initially. It went to VAR and they reversed this call. And Sanchez does definitely get a heel on the ball. He doesn't make a ton of contact with Mane. I think if he makes more contact and comes through him a bit more, it might still be a penalty. And so this was just an absolutely incredible tackle from Davinson Sanchez, the Tottenham center back. So again, just fantastic on that front. 31st minute, James Rodriguez is forced to come out. You feel for him. He is their kind of heart and their spirit of Colombia, and Muriel comes on. We'll see how that impacts Colombia moving forward. David, any thoughts on the injury or anything?
From an England perspective, playing him on Tuesday, I can't really complain too much. If it keeps him out of that one, I'll be happy about that. But you don't want to see like the stars of the tournament limping out. But like I said, selfish point of view, it's all going to benefit England maybe next week.
Yes, absolutely. Colombia was a little bit nervy initially. They kept giving the ball away. And I think that was more of it was both a commitment from Senegal defensively and also a little bit of nerves. So it wasn't just Colombia playing poorly. I think I want to give Senegal props because I thought they were doing exceptionally well, getting into passing lanes, being very structured defensively in their formation. So I thought they did a really good job. First half didn't have a ton of scoring chances outside of that penalty. Quintero hit a really nice free kick in the first half, low, and the Senegal keeper made a nice save. Anything else you wanted to highlight from the first half?
Yeah, like just going back to saying about Quintero, then I think so far he's one of the standout players of Colombia. I think Real Madrid are apparently sniffing around him as well now for a summer transfer target, and his performances so far kind of really back that speculation up. And to be fair, he's probably one of the unsung heroes of the tournament so far. I don't think many people have expected to be talking about him at this stage of the tournament as one of the best performers.
I'd agree with that. And for him, or from most of what we were hearing about Colombia, it was either James or Quintero, and they found a way to get them both into the lineup, which has been fantastic. Ndiaye is the Senegal keeper who made the save. I wanted to get his name out there. Just going back a moment. Now, second half started. Again, not much to report. I don't have much in my notes. I thought Koulibaly and Sane, the Senegal center backs, as well as Jerry Mina and Davinson Sanchez, both sets of center backs, I thought played pretty well throughout the match. I thought they were physical, they were strong, they were disciplined. And so again, I thought both sets of center backs played well. Goal for Colombia comes in the 74th minute off a corner kick, served into the near post. Mina with a fantastic header just straight into the ground. Quintero gets the assist. Anything you wanted to highlight on the corner?
Not really, no. So I think Senegal probably could defend it a little bit better, but yeah, I think like Colombia looked at dangerous set pieces in all the group stage games, to be fair. So I think it's just inevitable, really. It's going to cause danger.
I'd agree with that. And then at the end, Senegal just wasn't able to generate chances once Colombia went ahead. They kind of pushed forward, but again, there wasn't a clear-cut opportunity. There wasn't a ton of creativity in their movement or in their final ball. And so again, the match sort of kind of petered out. There wasn't, that one sort of like, oh, they could have scored this and things would have been different, at least from my recollection. Anything else you wanted to highlight from this match?
Not really. I think Colombia are deserving winners of the group. And I think, to be fair, I think like similar to the Brazil World Cup in 2014, they could be dark horse really to get quite far again this time around. Obviously, the game next week's going to be an interesting encounter, so hopefully it lives up to the bill that it's going to get.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, I really like the way that they are playing. Now, the Group H finish, Colombia first with 6 points, Japan second with 4 points, Senegal also tied on 4 points, but they came in third, and then Poland on 3 points in fourth place. Now, the difference between Japan and Senegal, they had the exact same goals scored, exact same goals against, so the goal difference was the same, and they also drew their match. So this actually came down to FIFA fair play points. I wanted to get your thoughts real quick on that being kind of the tiebreaker. For those who may not know, you basically get points deducted for every yellow or red card you accumulate. That's the easy way to explain all of that. What do you make of that being the deciding factor in the group stage?
It's a very cruel way to go out the tournament, but when everything's as level as it was, there's nothing else really can separate the two sides between. Like, I know there was a discussion if England and Belgium finished dead level tonight, it was going to be like a toss of a coin or something like that. And that's probably the only other way worse really to go out than how many bookings you got over 3 games.
That's true. So yeah, I mean, at a certain point, you have to make a decision on something, and flip of the coin is probably worse than something you can at least somewhat control how many yellow or red cards you get. So again, it's not perfect, but based on the situation, again, I think it's making the most out of it. Now, so anything else from Group H before we move on to Group G?
Yeah, I think Group H has been probably the most intriguing of the tournament so far. Like, if you look at the final standings, I think going into today, I don't think anybody could have called anything. I think it's probably been the most entertaining group really to watch, to be fair.
I'd say, what was Germany's group? The E? Are they E or F? I can't remember. That was pretty entertaining as well.
Yeah. I think for how close this group was, though, I think that probably slightly edges it for me.
Okay, fair enough. Now, let's talk about the Group G matches, last group stage matches of the day. I don't know why they were reversed, why H went before G, but whatever. So we had England versus Belgium and Panama versus Tunisia. Let's talk Panama versus Tunisia real quick. I mean, I didn't really watch this too much, but let's just get it out of the way so we can focus more of our time on England versus Belgium. Did you watch the match? Did you make anything of it?
I'll be honest, I've watched very fleetingly, like highlights in between England and Belgium. I think unless you were from Panama or Tunisia, I don't think many people would have had much of an interest in this one.
I'd agree with that. So let me just real quick for anyone who does want to know, I was also paying much more attention to England versus Belgium, but it finished 2-1. Tunisia got the victory over Panama. Tunisia pretty much dominated play through open play, possession. They seem to have more chances going forward and all of that. Panama did get the first goal of the match in the 33rd minute, came off a deflected shot by Rodriguez. Because I wasn't paying close attention, Torres, the center back for Panama, was the guy who laid the ball off to him. And so I would assume all of this came from a broken play from some sort of set piece or corner kick. Again, I'm not exactly sure how it got to, Torres at center forward laying it off to Rodriguez. But again, that's what happened. Shot deflected off the Tunisian defender and into the net. So unlucky for Tunisia. Anything else you want to mention before I just keep rolling here, David?
Nah, I don't think I can really offer much on that one.
No worries. 51st minute, it was 1-1. Tunisia got their goal back, and Tunisia was playing just very well throughout the game. They had better flow in their attacking play. They were interchanging. They just looked like the better attacking side, and it was finally rewarded in the 51st minute. Sliti, he was number 23. He's a young player, dribbled in, beat a couple of Panamanian players, drew them in, laid it off to Khazri, who I thought was Tunisia's best player throughout the tournament. I thought he had a fantastic tournament, but he played an inch-perfect cross across the middle of the penalty box for Ben Youssef to tap into the wide open net. So again, fantastic play from Tunisia. 66th minute, Khazri gets his goal, makes it 2-1 to Tunisia. Again, great combo play from Tunisia on the side. And eventually it got to Haddadi, who was driving to the end line, played a perfect cross across the 6-yard box. Khazri taps it in. There were a couple other incidents throughout the match. Panama scored a absolutely cracker of a goal in the 73rd. It was called back for a penalty that was scored by Barcenas, and the match ended 2-1. Not going to highlight really much else from that. Let's get to the real match we want to focus on, which is England versus Belgium. It finished 1-0 Belgium over England. David, what'd you make of the match?
Like I said before, I think everyone kind of expected it weren't going to be as entertaining as it potentially could have been billed if there was more riding on it. Especially everyone talking up that you potentially could have a better route to the final if you finish second. But I think with the amount of rotations, it weren't ever going to live up to the expectation of how good it could have been if there was more on it.
Yeah, and I believe there were 17 rotations from both teams combined, so there were only a handful of players that had started the previous match. What do you think about that? So what do you make of all the lineup rotations? Do you like to see that players getting rest in a tournament that's condensed and there's a lot of matches? Do you want them to continue their momentum? What do you make of the lineup rotations?
I'd rather England gone full swell, even for both sides. I think you need to keep the momentum going. I think at this stage, if you can get 2-3 wins on the spin in the group stage and carry it on into the knockout rounds, I think there's no better feeling than winning a game of football. So I think if you can get that going in the group stage, I think stands you in good stead for the rest of the tournament, really. And I think once you disrupt that, and it showed tonight, you lose. Like England lacked the intensity of the first two matches, and I think that's mainly down to a lot of the rotations.
And so YouTube user Joe Danson had a couple questions for us. So his first one was, why does Rashford never get the stick that Sterling does? He had, a couple bad misses tonight, and he just thought he didn't play well. So any thoughts on Rashford's performance tonight?
Yeah, so I think Rashford had an average game. I was expecting a bit more of an impact from him, and I think the questions were, I think Sterling, when he does play, does get a bit of an unfair deal, really. Say there was that chance that Rashford missed like halfway through the second half when he was one-on-one with Courtois, and 9 times out of 10 you'd be expecting your striker to be sticking that in the back of the net, but it was a horrendous miss, to be honest. I'm sure if Sterling would have missed that, there might have been a bit more of a reaction to that on social media, but it is what it is, and see what happens in the next one.
And then Joe also had a question. Danny Rose over Ashley Young. He wants to see that at left wing back. He's younger, quicker, more of a threat going forward. What do you make of Rose over Ashley Young?
Yeah, I'm a huge fan of Danny Rose. So the Ashley Young situation, he is a makeshift left back. It's not his natural position. And especially in the first couple of games, when he gets down to the byline, it's time to get back onto his right foot. And I think by that point, the opposition are like flooding their own box and able to cut the cross out a lot quicker. With Danny Rose naturally left foot, he can get the ball in. He's got a great delivery of the ball as well. So I think going into the knockouts, I think Danny Rose will be a better option than Ashley Young.
Agreed. So then getting back to this particular match, the first kind of noteworthy play came in the 10th minute. There was a cross by Januzaj. Rose just kept backing off of him. Fellaini wins it. Then there's sort of like a mashup scramble in the box. Not exactly sure what happened, but eventually the ball is rolling towards the end line. Cahill gets back to clear it off the line. What was going through your head in that particular moment?
Typical England, really. After two great performances, and then as soon as I saw that, I was like, "Oh, here we go again." But luckily got back and cleared it away.
Agreed. Not much else to report from the first half. I have a couple notes here. I thought Tielemans played pretty well. He had that, bullet of a shot early that Pickford palmed away. He had a good driving run through the midfield. I think it forced a foul. So I thought he was playing fairly well. In the first half, I didn't think Januzaj played particularly well. I thought he was holding on to the ball too long and just taking too much time. And then last little thing I had, Hazard and Chadley, they flipped flanks at a certain point as the wingbacks, and then they flipped back. I think their first flip came in the 25th, 35th. They flipped back again. Didn't really result in much, but didn't have much else to report from the first half. Anything else you wanted to note from the first half, David?
Yeah, it was a bit of a dire affair, that first half. It had the tempo of a friendly, and you could tell at that point, I don't think any team was overly bothered about winning the game. I think that first half really proved that, to be fair. No one was really wanting to take a risk or get on the make a bursting run. I think everyone was just happy and content at 0-0 at half time.
Yeah, I'd agree with that. And after we get done talking about this, I want to just address that point, just overall about today's matches. So then the goal comes in the 51st minute for Belgium. Januzaj gets the ball. He does a great just fake to going right. Danny Rose bites on it. He cuts back to his left and then hits a curler upper 90 over Pickford. What'd you make of this particular goal?
I think Danny Rose probably could have defended it a little bit better. I think it was obvious Januzaj was going to try and cut back in with the left foot. So we're seeing it time and time again. He is very one-footed, and I think it was only inevitable he was going to come back on the left. Once beat Danny Rose, harsh criticism. I thought Delph could have probably closed him down a little bit quicker, but I think really Rose probably should have dealt with it better. But Delph again probably could have got to it a little bit quicker as well and probably prevented it.
Do you have any blame or any sort of criticism for Pickford here? He gets a hand on it. Is that harsh to criticize him? What do you think?
I was a bit undecided watching the replay. The more I watch it, yeah, he probably could have done a little bit better with it himself. It looked very much like a camera save. Another yard or so to his towards the post, and yeah, he probably couldn't put fault to him, but I think he was a lot closer to him than the attempt to save makes out.
Agree with that. Now, this is, again, might be unfairly harsh criticism. Pickford's listed at 6'1". He doesn't look 6'1". He doesn't look like the biggest keeper. You have Courtois in there who's 6'6", 6'7". I think he makes that save somewhat comfortably. Again, is it harsh to, I don't know, criticize him for not for being short, but is there any element of him being, kind of smaller in stature? Does that give you any concern or anything like that, or no?
No, it's watching him week in, week out in the Premier League. He's very athletic, and I think, yeah, he's slightly smaller in stature compared to your typical top flight keeper, but he does make up for that with athleticism. He can probably get to a lot more shots than you have, say Courtois, for example, could get to. So I think he kind of cancels that out with a bit more about his game, really.
Yep, and I am 100% in agreement, but it's always interesting to hear different people's perspectives. I know a lot of people just prefer the big keepers who just take up space, and so I definitely think there's a place for more athletic, smaller, quicker keepers as well. 65th minute, this is what Joe was kind of alluding to earlier. Vardy checks back, receives the ball back to goal, draws in two defenders, plays an absolutely superb slip pass to Marcus Rashford. He drives in and just completely misses the net. David, what'd you make of this particular play?
He should have absolutely buried that into the back of the net. I think my main criticism is he probably could have took it on two touches earlier. He could have took it on just outside the box, but I think the extra two touches probably Courtois narrowed the angles a lot closer to, and he probably covered a lot of the area that Rashford could have gone for. I think that showed really with him trying to bend it round Courtois, rather than probably if he took it 2 yards earlier, could have just looped it over him instead.
Joe's got another comment here. He's really impressed with Southgate kind of revolutionizing the side. They have variation in their game instead of just a 4-4-2. They have a couple other things. They got, they're playing with a 3-5-2 and formations like that. What do you make of Southgate and kind of what he's done with this team?
Lately I've started to warm towards Southgate. When he first got the job, I was a bit hesitant towards why we gave him the job. I had him down as a bit of a yes man for the Football Association, but he's starting to give the England team a bit of an identity now that we've never had previously. It's more a case now of we've got a system for the players rather than trying to accommodate the best players into a system. Like if we go back to like the golden generation, we had trying to get Lampard, Gerrard Scholes into the same midfield. Sven-Göran Eriksson massively got that wrong and was trying to force a system upon that players. But now Southgate's probably got the right blend of having the right system, and now he's getting the players to match that rather than the other way around.
I'd agree with that. Yeah, I've been very impressed with him and just how he's gone about developing this team, given, how he was kind of appointed and all the drama that surrounded that. It didn't seem like, he was the first choice. But again, I think he's made the most of his opportunity. So props to him there. Last thing I have from this match is I didn't think Dyer, the central midfielder, was overly involved. I mean, we saw Henderson incredibly involved in the matches previously. And Dyer, I thought, went through long periods of the match just kind of not being involved, particularly offensively. I know he's not the same player as Henderson, but being captain, being in the center of the pitch. I mean, there were 10, 15 minutes where you didn't hear his name called and you didn't even realize he was still on the pitch. Did you follow Dyer's game? Do you have any comments on that?
Yeah, I agree with you what you say. Eric Dyer does tend to go missing a lot in a lot of games, and he's been a perfect fixture of the Spurs midfield and defence now for a few years, but I don't really understand the hype with Eric Dyer. And I can understand why he's been playing Henderson ahead of him. I'm not sure exactly what his standout trait is meant to be. And it's one of those, I'd rather see a lot of players in that midfield ahead of Eric Dyer, but I can see why Gareth Southgate would pick him for his versatility. But apart from that, I don't see what he really brings to an England squad.
I agree with that. I mean, I personally rate him a little bit better as a defender, so maybe drop him back a little bit. He might make more of an impact. Anything else you wanted to mention from this game before we talk about tomorrow's matches?
No, I think we've covered everything there. I think the whole group, really.
All right, cool. So let me to recap, Belgium came first on 9 points in Group G, England second with 6 points. Tunisia got the victory. They came third with 3 points, and Panama down in fourth with 0 points, about as expected. Now, before we talk about tomorrow's matches, wanted to quickly mention StadiumScene.tv. They're our partner. They are a travel blog for soccer fans. So if you are going to a match in the United States for soccer, American football, basketball, any sport, you want to go to StadiumScene.tv. They have recommendations on where to eat, where to park, where to go after the match, bars and restaurants. They're fantastic. In addition to that, they partner with content creators like us at Bros Talking Soccer. We have the Lads podcast, Game Day Tours, tons of others, not just soccer content, all different sports. So go to StadiumScene.tv, podcast, videos, blog posts, all that stuff. We got it all there. Now, on Saturday, so we're off tomorrow for the World Cup, but Saturday we are back for the first round of 16 matches. We got France versus Argentina and Uruguay versus Portugal. David, quickly, what are you expecting from these matches?
I'm really looking forward to the France-Argentina game, especially if both teams can finally perform at the level they should be doing. I think France on paper probably look the stronger side, but they've been so unpredictable so far. I don't think we know exactly what France are going to get turning up yet. Argentina are very lucky to get through, I thought the other night. Whether they're on merits, up to everyone's opinion. Personally, I don't think they deserve to get through. I'd rather have seen Nigeria get through along with Croatia, but they're there, and I think it's going to probably one of the standout ties of the last 16 if they both play to the potential.
I'd agree with that. And then Uruguay versus Portugal, thoughts?
Again, Portugal are one of those sides I'm not a massive fan of watching. So I do like Cristiano Ronaldo, but I'm hoping Uruguay get through on that one. I think they're a lot stronger at the back end. When you got Suarez and Cavani up front, you'd imagine there's going to be a few goals from them. But again, up until that final group stage game, their performances haven't really been up to what people would have been expecting, really.
I agree with that. And so for me, I mean, I still rate this French team. I think that they got a bad rap from the Australia game. I didn't think they played particularly well in the first half, but I thought they figured out a formation and a personnel structure that worked, having Giroud up top and then having Griezmann and Mbappe running off of him, Pogba supported by Matuidi and Kanté. I think that is the best formation moving forward. And then it was kind of circumstantial why they didn't play well the rest of the time. Once they got up in their second match, they kind of just sat back and just played for the 1-0. And then in their final match, they were kind of already through and they didn't need to progress. So I still rate this team very highly, and I don't rate the Argentina team. I had them barely coming through in their group, which is what they did, and I expect this French team to just pull through. They're just Argentina is just a mess from all kinds of different perspectives. And Uruguay versus Portugal, anyone who's listened to the podcast before, I am not high on this Portugal team. I basically think Ronaldo is just carrying this team. For whatever reason, the other players other than Ronaldo aren't performing to their potential. Bernardo Silva is is an extremely talented player playing for Man City, and he just disappears when he plays for Portugal. And you're kind of seeing that with some of their other players. Quaresma played well last match, but a lot of the Portuguese players, I just don't rate. I think their defenders are kind of old, and I don't rate them highly. Guerrero's younger, but he hasn't really been playing well outside. And so I expect Uruguay, their quality up top, their defensive structure. I don't know if Jimenez is going to be back for this match. I know he was out injured. Do you happen to know, David?
So I think it was Sky Sports watching. I think they've got him down as 50-50 at the minute. But say if he's back fit and him and Godin at the back, they'll be very difficult to break down regardless who you go up front for Portugal.
Exactly. And so I think they find a way to deal with Ronaldo, and I don't know who Portugal has, other than him. So, I favor Uruguay and France to come out of these two matches. David, anything else you wanted to mention before we get out of here?
I'd say one more thing about France. I think if they can finally click and finally find like the best team and the best way of playing, I think they're going to be the team to watch really. So if they can finally get a starting 11 that they're comfortable with, because I don't think, even at the last 16, I don't think Deschamps still knows what his best team is, what his best tactics are. But if they can finally click, I think they're going to take some stopping.
I'd agree with that. And before we get out of here, Joe had a couple other points. He wanted to know, what are your thoughts on Loftus-Cheek, and should England have brought Wilshere to this tournament? So any thoughts there?
I'm quite a big fan of Loftus-Cheek, but I think tonight was probably his worst game of the tournament so far. I was really impressed with his performance against Tunisia. It was a bit hit and miss in the game against Panama, but tonight I think his decision-making really let him down. There was a chance in the first half where he probably could have been towards the end of the first half. He had a good chance to get a shot away, but I think he ended up playing a really poor over-the-top ball and the keeper ended up claiming it. In the second half, there was a great chance for him to play a nice ball through to Alexander-Arnold, but I think he was a bit indecisive, really, of what he wanted to, and all of a sudden he had about 3-4 players around it, kind of sniffed out the opportunity there.
And then what do you think about Wilshere not being brought on this England squad? Any thoughts on that?
Yeah, I think leading up to this one, I was quite an advocate for Wilshere coming to the tournament. So I know he's very hit and miss really with some England fans. Some really want him in the squad, some don't see what he really brings to the squad. But I think in terms of what he would have brought, I think he would have probably brought a bit more than Eric Dyer. But that's my personal opinion. I think he would have been a better option than some that we took there anyway.
Yeah, and I think he's just a different style and a different element. And so if Southgate is committed to playing the 3-5-2, he wants these personnel, he's not going to have a ton of variation. I get why he isn't there, but in a tournament situation when you don't know who you're coming up against and, there may be injuries or whatnot, having the flexibility to go with someone who maybe is a little bit more creative, who can possess the ball and all of that, I think it may have been worth it to bring him. I don't know who you leave off from this team, but I think it may have been worth it to bring him, but again, I can understand why he wasn't brought.
Yeah, I think the issue with Wilshere really is the injuries that he's had over the years. I don't think Southgate really saw him as a reliable option. If you take him and you bring him on, say against Tunisia, for example, he's only seconds away from an injury with Wilshere. It's a shame, really, because without that, he would have had a fantastic career. But for a tournament, I don't think you can really put faith really in his injuries really staying away.
I'd agree with that. There is an element of him, maybe not in a starter role, so there's less risk of an injury, but I'm with you that just the fact that he has those injuries, I mean, it's not like every time you have an injury, a lot of times you don't heal quite as good, and so there's a slight higher risk of being injured that same way again. So I understand why he wasn't brought in. There is a risk from that perspective. All right. So before we close out here, I just wanted to quickly mention I have another YouTube channel called The Soccer Tavern where I make videos about the history, culture, and philosophy of the beautiful game. So we have all different kinds of videos on there. We have videos about, why a nutmeg is called a nutmeg and different terminology. We have history videos on the 20 Premier League clubs. We're going to be doing the 3 newly promoted teams this summer. But we also have national team history videos for the 32 teams at the World Cup. Each of them are about 5 to 10 minutes, tell you about where the country is located in the world, what the national team crest looks like and the meaning behind it, their nicknames, how they've done in past World Cups, past great players, and so much more. Please go check that out. We have it linked in the video description. Podcast listeners, it'll be in the podcast description. And if you're just on YouTube, search the Soccer Tavern. We'd really appreciate that. David, thanks again. Do you want to remind people where people can find Over the Bar and a little bit about the website?
Yeah, so you can find us on Twitter, Over the Bar. We've also got our website as well, www.otbfootball.net. So we've got our own World Cup hub on there at the moment, which we're getting regular content on. If you guys want to check us out, as a breakdown of all the stadiums, all the cities at the World Cup. We did our group previews. If you want to go check out how much of that we got right. So Paul did a really interesting piece the other day as well on VAR. So depending on what your standpoint on that is, go check that out as well. It's a really good read and see what you think of the controversy of it so far as well. Give us a follow, see what you think.
Absolutely. So we have both those. We have the Twitter account and the website linked in the video description. Podcast listeners, it will be there for you as well. Before we get out of here, if you want to get in contact with us, our Twitter's at BT Soccer Pod. We're live tweeting all of the matches and, love to hear from you, your thoughts on the matches, thoughts on the podcast, so on and so forth. Again, it's at BT Soccer Pod. If you want to email us, our email is bros.talking.soccer@gmail.com. Our website is brostalkingsoccerpodcast.com. You can check out our past episodes, read about me and my brothers, so much more. Tomorrow, there's no matches, but we will be doing one, possibly two shows, one with Mark Lawson from Game Day Tourist, just kind of giving an overview on the World Cup. He is more of a traveler, more cultural type of person, so we're going to get maybe a little bit more of perspective. These have been pretty heavy tactics, and then the other possible show, Christian will be back on, and we will just be kind of giving an overview on the group stage and previewing the final matches. David, thank you so much for being here.
No problem. Thanks for having me.
All right. Everybody go check out Over the Bar, and anyone watching, thank you for tuning in. Podcast listeners, thank you so much for being here. We'll talk to you soon. See you, everybody.